YouTube? This is Steve from Average Joe's Fantasy Football, and we've got another start and sit video for week 2 of the NFL season. Again, these videos are always going to be based off of full PPR or half PPR. If it is a standard league, always hit us up in the comments down below, and we'll try to help you guys with those lineup questions. If you guys haven't already, check out our running back and quarterback start and sit, and make sure you guys are subscribed and noties are on. That way you guys are part of this family and getting notification all of these start and sits and waivers for this upcoming fantasy season. So let's start. This is my favorite position, wide receiver. It's absolutely my favorite. So these are your obvious starts this week. I know Jamar Chase struggled. I know that was hard for a lot of you guys, but he is still going to be a start this week. I get it. Week 1, just ignore it. We're going to start fresh. Now, my first receiver I'm going to recommend starting this week is going to be DeAndre Hopkins versus the Chargers. Hopkins looked a little bit older, but he still did a very good job his first game. Tannehill is, of course, his quarterback, which is going to be a reason why Hopkins can't be a top-tier wide receiver. Unfortunately, Tannehill definitely hinders him a little bit. With that said, Hopkins saw plenty of targets, and I expect similar performance this week. Chargers just let Tyreek go off. And that secondary absolutely struggled. Now, clearly, Tyreek and Hopkins are two different levels. Hopkins is not going to have a Tyreek performance, but I do expect a 15 to 20 point performance, like a really low end wide receiver 1, a high wide receiver 2. I really like Hopkins this week. I think this is going to be a really good one. Another receiver is DJ Moore versus the Bucks. This has got to be a redemption story for him. Obviously, there was a lot of struggle last week. I don't know what the Bears were absolutely doing. They just gave away the opportunity to have a really good start against a Packers team that doesn't have Aaron Rodgers. This is a game where I think DJ Moore should turn this around, and Fields. Bucks struggled against wide receivers. They allowed both Jefferson and Addison to play well. Of course, Jefferson will. DJ Moore should see more targets his way. I'm hoping, again, they're going to draw up an offense that's going to allow Fields to, do some running plays, do some bootlegs, different things like that, play action to help kind of open up the field, really allow him to really focus on one side. So I like this matchup. This is definitely a game where DJ Moore needs to have a good one, or we're going to talk a little bit differently for the rest of the season. Now, the last wide receiver I recommend this week is going to be Nico Collins versus the Colts. Nico saw lots of targets his way, as did Robert Woods. I like both of them. They played really well, and they are actually really good weapons for CJ Stroud. Colts defense allowed 42.3 points last week to receivers this past Sunday, and 2 touchdowns to them as well. I really like this matchup for Nico. I think he's got a really good connection with Stroud. I think this is going to be a really good season for him as long as he stays healthy. He's going to get plenty of targets. And I'm actually really super excited for this Stroud versus Richardson matchup, and honestly, really going forward for their careers. As long as they both play to their potential, it's going to be a nice, fun 10 years or more between the two of them in this rivalry. So I really like that one. Now, the first wide receiver I'm going to recommend as a sit is Garrett Wilson versus the Cowboys. Now, obviously, Jets fans, fantasy fans, whatever it is, Aaron Rodgers getting hurt in that first game was a huge hit for the NFL, for Jets fans, and of course, anybody in fantasy who owns Garrett Wilson. I get it. If you don't have any other player, you're going to start him, but he's going to be covered by Trayvon Diggs or Gilmore. Like, two of some of the best corners in this game. Plus, if you saw the game against, really the Bills against the Jets, that offensive line struggled. Now you're going to have a defensive line like the Cowboys going after Zach Wilson. It's going to be a really tough matchup for the Jets. I don't expect a lot of Garrett Wilson. If he's going to have any redemption, it's going to be the fact that he's going to get 8 to 10 receptions because he's going to get targeted so often. But Wilson did put up 14 points last week, and that was because of that respectable touchdown that helped. He didn't break 40 receiving yards. He only saw 5 catches. But with that said, just for the long term, I know a lot of people have been asking about what to do with him. I've been getting hit in the DMs, comments, whatever. I'm still holding on to him. I have him in a few leagues. His value is still, it's a little iffy, right? Now, if he has a really good game, you might want to get rid of him. But right now I'm holding on to him because even last year with the whole quarterback debacle that the Jets had, he would still finish as wide receiver 19. Now, he's not going to finish the draft capital you did after getting him because realistically, a lot of you probably drafted him in the second round. I did that in a few redraft leagues. So it's a little bit challenging, but I'm a little bit weary this week for Garrett Wilson. I do still have some hope for the rest of the season. Now, another receiver I'm sitting this week is going to be George Pickens versus the Browns. I believe in Pickens this season, but Steelers just lost Deontay Johnson for at least a month, which means obviously defenses are going to put a lot of focus on Pickens, and you really need a lot more out of Pickett. He struggled. Pickett has a lot to prove. Now, this matchup is definitely a tough one. You got Ward on the outside covering Pickens, and the Browns just held receivers to 12.1 points combined last week. So this is a really tough matchup for George Pickens, and I'm going to sit him this week. Last wide receiver I'm going to sit is Drake London versus the Packers. It's simple. Falcons don't seem to trust Ritter. They have two very good backs that they're going to run the ball like crazy. And Drake London is going to be covered by Jair Alexander. Those three things are the exact reason why you're going to sit Drake London. Not just because of the performance last week. Clearly, you could see that this performance is something that is going to be scary and unfortunately probably what's going to happen the rest of the season. But this one, unless you're in a very deep league, Drake London should be on your bench probably for a while unless it's a really crazy matchup. Now, my sleeper for the week is going to be Terry McLaurin versus the Broncos. I expected a lot more out of Sam Howell last week against the bad Cardinals team. This week should be some redemption because, again, the Broncos weren't great. McLaurin should be a really strong flex play this week, maybe a good wide receiver too. Broncos allowed 43 points to wide receivers last week and 2 receiving touchdowns, and they struggled against Jimmy G. Now, I obviously think Jimmy G is a better quarterback than Sam Howell, but I do expect Howell to have a better performance than he did last week, and I think this is a good matchup and turnaround, so I like McLaurin this week. So those are my start, sits, and sleepers for the wide receiver position. If you guys do have lineup questions, feel free to hit us up in the comments down below. That's where we're going to try to help you guys out. Again, make sure you guys are subscribed, not only just for these start and sit videos, but also waivers and anything Dynasty content. We'll start doing some Dynasty content soon, talking trades and all that fun stuff. So again, make sure you guys are subscribed. If you guys did enjoy the content, make sure you guys hit the like button. Share this with your friends. I don't know if you're going to do it with your league mates, and I understand that, but share with your friends that are in fantasy as well, just to give them some insight. Again, make sure you check out our start and sits for the quarterback and running back if you haven't already. Subscribe, like, and I'll check you guys out next time.